First of all, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Welcome.
Hearts.
Hearts, yep, hearts. Uh, and I just want to kind of give you the overview of what we're looking at, and we'll just see where we go. Um, so we're going to just take a moment to give an overview about the transits, what's happening there, um, some of the things that are influencing how we're looking at the chart. And then that feel really exciting to me. And then we're going to look at the pattern of working with triggers and resistance. And then we're going to pick a channel and work with a channel. Does that sound okay to everybody? Yep. I'm not seeing any. I have one nod. Hit okay. Generator here, guys. Generator. Um, so the first thing I want to acknowledge, and if you have your oils handy, you can grab them. If not, hey, Marco, welcome. But the first thing I want to acknowledge is that the sun is transiting gate 30. And this is yeah, so if you have that, you can smell it. Paul, you haven't smelled this yet. It's a
So we should we always have our oils for these meetings?
yeah, just always just always have the transits anyway. Always have what's transiting, just because it's a way to tap in. So just to tap into this gate 30, this clinging fire, this passion, this this intense energy, right? This is the core of attraction and aversion. We want something or we want to avoid something. This is where the seed of that lives. Underneath the waves of trying to get something out there or avoid something, trying to fill a hole out of that emotional kind of rockiness, beneath that is are the desires that are, we could say, essential or of the heart or of essence, that are, it's like the sunflower turning its head towards the sun. It's a natural uprising. It's not a head decision. It's not a trying to get something or avoid something. It's a much deeper place that we're actually in relationship with the world. And our desire is like our potential, our entelechy. It's what's arising, what's wanting at the deepest level. So that 30 is transiting as the sun. So for the next couple of days, all of us, and it's intense because it activates our passions and our desires. So you might see the world bouncing around a little bit this week, people having intense feelings, intense reactions. You might find your own desires like clinging fire. It says the 30 wants what it wants when it wants it. And if you can stand back and watch, then something else, you can let those waves pass and open to what's underneath that. The earth, emanating from the earth, is gate 29. It's this oh, Richard Rudd said the city for the 30 is rapture. So this is the gate 29, and this is perseverance. This is this is a little different. This is like not based. This is coming from the sacral going towards the G center. It's like direct, it's the energy of the sacral going to like, what direction are we going into? What matters for us? Where do we want to go? What's going to be aligned with us? It's this powerful kind of hum of when you have a yes, it's like you've got the energy to meet the obstacles that are going to arise in front of you. So you've got this passion and you've got this possibility of meeting that in some, using that fuel of that desire to to like, let's just say if your desire was awakening, there's support for that desire, for example. I want to explain something for a moment because some of you understand this and you know you already know this and some of you don't. The I'm going to just show it on my phone for a second because I think that's going to be easier for me. Um, if you look at this, can you guys see that? I want you to look at this over here. Those are the planets and those are their transits right now. So that's where you see the sun is in 30, the earth is in 29. And then you see the north node and the south node are the next two. And they're in,
Lift it higher to the camera.
oh, sorry, the moon is next, sorry. And then just above that is the north node and the south node. And they're in 36 and 6. So for the next, until June 13th, the world, the field that we're all in is crisis and resolution from crisis. We're all swimming in that perfect time to work your triggers. Like, woohoo, it's like harvest time. Let's go for it, right? The support of the universe is saying, you know, what are you wanting? What are you doing? You know, what matters to you? How are you going to work it? And where are you stopped? And where's the friction in your life? Where's the crisis in your life? Where are you doing things that aren't aligned? And how do you come back to yourself? So I'm just putting that in the background of what we're doing today. If you look at this chart, you'll see gate 41 is Pluto, and Pluto has moved from 60 to it's a very bottom one is 41. And if you look at the chart, we've got the 4130, that whole channel is happening. Everyone see that? So while the sun is in 30, everybody has this channel. So I want you to think about that in terms of channels. It's not just when you hook up with someone. It can be a transiting channel. So the theme of this month is channels. So I just wanted to point that out. We're not, you know, we haven't really got to transits explicitly, but just imagine everybody has the root to the emotional solar plexus. What's possible for humanity? Feeding. What am I passionate about? How do I bring that into the world? Right? So we're all in this emotional wave. What's going on here? We also all have this, you see the 35, 36, 35. So we all have a motor to our throat. Yeah, Jupiter's in 35 and the north node is in 36. So for quite a while now, I didn't look up how long, we all have this emotional energy to our voice. So not only do we have the root feeding the emotional solar plexus, we have the emotional solar plexus feeding the throat. So just to watch and see, are you called to speak? Are you called to write? Are you called to share your experiences? This is the feeling, sensing, uh, collective right brain. Are you called to speak what you feel, what you experience? So there's two things I want to talk about in this piece. Hey, Casey. There's two things I want to talk about in this. One is that we are having a huge transformation in our world right now. The you know, you can see it in politics, you can see it in a lot of places. We're undergoing, and we're in preparation in human design, we know this, preparation for 2027. Some of you may have seen this video, and I know we posted it in the advanced training yesterday, but I want to post it again today. It's something Cindy, and I'm sending it in the letter as well for people who don't get it. Where are my notes? Cindy sent it to me and to a number of us. It's Richard Rudd on the New Human. And he's really looking at the transits. Oops, that didn't happen. Sorry. he's really looking at the transits and how they're impacting us. So I want to invite you all to watch that video. He's talking to an astrologer, super interesting. So we're undergoing this huge shift as at a planetary level, but we're also undergoing a huge shift at a personal level. And I think that's where our work comes in and intersects. On that note, I want to share something that Polly has been talking about a lot, working with a lot. Before even this book, before even we were reading this book, it's the Quantum Revelation by Paul Levy. And again, I really encourage you to, I'm listening to it on Audible. It's like mind-blowing. And as we look at the chart, and as we look at our triggers, this quantum understanding, so Paul Levy brings together spirituality and quantum physics, how we look at the chart is impacted by our conclusions, by our triggers, right?
The wound.
By the wound. Okay. Let's say it that way, by the wound. So we're going to start bringing this conversation in more and more, and we want you to be with us in that conversation because it's really, really exciting. One of the things that Paul Levy talks about, Richard Rudd talks about, and some of you who have studied with Richard know this, but I'll just say it for those of you who don't. He talks about the shift of the dragonfly from being a predator that's going along in a horizontal plane, underwater, in the murk, and then after 2 or 3 years turns vertical, we don't know why, and starts crawling up some grass, and then totally, just like a caterpillar, totally dissolves its structure. This is what we're doing, by the way, guys. Dissolves its structure and grows wings and becomes a dragonfly and can fly. So the world is undergoing a dissolution, and we're undergoing a dissolution to become that new, but we have to let go of the structures, the triggers, the wounds, we could set the conclusions,
right?
And we have to leave that behind in order to come to the new place. Everyone with me so far? Yeah. So I don't know if there's more you want to talk about that.
Well, the Paul Levy book is a direct explanation of the way in which reality is reflected in what we call quantum physics, the shift out of an objective reality into the little phrase that Robin's done, this beautiful artwork piece, which is
as viewed, so appears.
So it's pointing to the double slit experiment where they realized that the measurement, the objective knowing of, and the double slit experiment of light wave, that measuring, that observation turned it into a photon. So when we are observing what we call reality, we see it through the lens that we know of as our wound, right? As the early conclusion. I'm not good enough. I don't matter. And that seeing is the information in how our reality shows up. It's the most radical understanding, but it's the one that opens all of us into freedom of the fulfillment of our creating consciously our own reality.
And it's the awareness that shifts the reality. So if we look at our chart and we think about conditioning, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about deconditioning here. We're talking about living our chart from the highest potential. And we're talking about it in terms of quantum physics. And I think the Richard Rudd conversation fits hand in glove with this. Any questions so far?
It's like I always say, the most fun you can have with your clothes on. It's this opening, this understanding, and the way we participate. It's like we're being invited into conscious participation in our own experience, our own reality. It's really the most exciting thing ever.
Yeah, Eloisa.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was just thinking about coming into this meeting, just how the inner tension is about just being in curiosity, like I'm going through transitions or voluntarily wanting to shed some things. And many times I find myself trying to make up what it's going to look like. Or if I do this, it's going to look like this. If I do this, it's going to look like this. But I know that ideally, like you're saying, you just sit in presence and curiosity about, ooh, what's gonna happen, and that is just so hard to do. But I keep trying to redirect myself and saying, I don't know. I don't know. It will happen. All it's all where it should be. And it's okay to just sit and wait. And that's difficult for this manifesting generator.
One thing I just want to say there that Polly just said, right? Because there's some I want to walk you through. I did a piece of work with Polly yesterday. I was like, oh, this is the map. I want to walk you through the map of the triggering process in terms of this. And what she said to me right before we sat down today, she said, oh my God. She said, all psychological solutions at the level of the problem are an aspect of the wound. So that it's like that Chinese puzzle piece. You try to get out, you're trying to get out of your place, and it just tightens on you because you're using your ego to try to get out. So we're in a conundrum here, right? How do we do this? How do we
It's
do
a quantum, like he says in the thing, it's a quantum. Expect it's going to be a quantum.
exactly? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Quantum shifts here, and using our charts. I keep wanting to bring it back to human design, using our charts to support us in that quantum shift.
Yeah, it's my cross. So I'm the sleeping phoenix too.
Okay. Okay. Yay. Thank you, Eloisa. Marston.
Okay, first of all, Robin, I've tried to get on camera, but it says that you disabled it, which is totally fine. I know I'm having a bad
I
hair
did
day.
not do that on purpose. I did
So
not do that.
I just wanted you to know it wasn't. Oh, here we go. Wait. Okay, there we go. Thanks for releasing me. I wanted to just add, just with regard to the Richard Rudd video that you and Cindy have shared with 2027 as the year that we're all preparing for. I really feel such cusp energy, like the word cusp keeps coming to me. And it feels like there's about to be all these like breakthroughs and insights. And it's interesting for me looking at my chart because I have I think my deepest fear is not living my entelechy, not actualizing my potential in this life. And so, to the point, to what you all have been talking about, I think this has been such a time for just letting everything kind of be in flow and not resisting or trying to control. And what keeps coming to me is, for any Harry Potter fans in the group, in the first book, first movie, Sorcerer's Stone, there's a trap called Devil's Snare, and it's like quicksand. Like the more you fight it and try to control it, the more tightly it grips you. You just have to relax into it and trust that you're going to be okay and on the ride. And that's the energy that I keep getting from this whole conversation. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Marston. And Marston, you're going through a big quantum. You're in the middle of that.
Yes.
You've made the shift from the horizontal to the vertical, and you're in the dissolution, and who or what is showing up.
Oh, I feel like I'm at the Willy Wonka, like the Willy Wonka elevator that's just going like diagonal up and down. And I'm like, I don't even know what direction we're in right now. We're just on the ride.
And I think what's so beautiful is we're doing this in community.
Yes.
Right? we're not doing this in isolation. We're doing this together. We're going on
Yeah.
that monkey elevator ride together. So happy you're with
Yeah.
us. And
Me too. Thank you so much.
thank you. Heidi.
Yesterday after the advanced class, I watched maybe 3/4 of the YouTube video that you just posted. And I just wanted to share. I had chills while watching it. I often don't watch things, and I did. And I've just come back from Tulum and had a very powerful 5-hour healing session with a Filipino woman and a man from the Canary Islands. And in it, she went into trance and identified spirit animals and guides. And when Richard Rudd was describing the dragonfly, which isn't my spirit animal, she identified 4, but in the water and coming through the mud, I think, or and described in detail the eyes and the entirety of the dragon. Um, I was stunned because this woman in trance, the 4th animal or 4th being she identified was a black water dragon, and it was exactly what she described. So I feel like when you say we're in community, that we're waking up together, that I am where I belong, which has not been my experience. And she even identified, no wonder you haven't felt like you belong, because the black water dragon is the shadow entrance into the shadow and the mystical. So I just wanted to express my gratitude.
Thanks, Hyde. Okay. Anything coming for you right now?
Just a reminder that the work that we do at the level of triggers, the gold that triggers are, is the dissolution of the me, of the ego me that needed to be a certain way, maybe as early as pre-incarnationally, but for sure an early experience upon incarnation. We developed a way of being in this reality. And as the me dissolves, this is the part that we don't have to worry about. What does show up is our natural embodied expression of our design, which is our vehicle, right? No longer is there a me that needs things to be a certain way to be okay. Now there is the full-on expression through this design, through this body-mind unit of the freedom and the specificity of the design. And it's the most deeply satisfying. That's what everybody on this call right now intuits, and that's why you're attracted to this work. And it is community, and we are all together in it, and reflecting back to each other, the dispelling of what is not true, and the arising of natural city expression of our design.
Right. Right. So it's the liberation of our design
That's right.
in a way to have its life.
That's right.
Right? If we think of it like all of our attention particles are going out to see, am I doing this right? Do I need to do it differently? I should be that person, rather than sitting back and letting this design take us through life. Something like that. So I want to talk about, I want to shift here for a minute, and then I'll let each of you have, a voice. I know that's always important, but to look at the map of the way we we move away from that, letting our life, our natural, we could say our chart, our our essence, who we are, who we're here to be, come through. So I'm going to start backwards. Excuse me. So I'll just use a trigger I had yesterday just as an example. So my niece and her boyfriend are visiting the island. They came, they went up to Hana. They didn't call me and tell me they were here. I haven't seen her maybe 6 years. You know, she's 30s. They came, and I felt, you know, and then they finally wrote yesterday and said, oh, I knew they were going to be here in my meadows this weekend. We've got this and this and this. We were doing a Molokini trip. And I'm like, am I chopped liver here? I mean, really? Come on, you're coming to Maui and you're not going to this is the weekend we have and you're doing your own thing. So I was triggered, right? Obviously triggered. I had a tribal idea of, they should spend the weekend with us. We should plan it together at least. Um, so I'm triggered, right? So, and we're going to do a back and forth here. I'm triggered. And then I have resistance. We have resistance to the trigger. So think of a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Think of a trigger and then feel the resistance to the trigger. We don't want to feel that trigger. We don't want to feel whatever. There's something we don't want to feel when we feel triggered. Otherwise, it would just flow through us, right? So there's a trigger, resistance to the trigger. Third step, there's an adaptive behavior that's trying to avoid an experience or have a different experience. So I go to, they're kids, the
Rationalization.
the boyfriend is really shy. I do whatever I do to not feel like I've been kicked in the gut or thrown in the dirt or something, like I don't matter, right? To avoid feeling some feeling, I go to an adaptive behavior. So think about the adaptive behavior that you might do for a trigger. And then there's there's an adaptive behavior, and then there's a feeling we don't want to feel that the adaptive behavior is covering up. And the feeling comes from the conclusion. The conclusion is the view or the lens. We're going back to the double slit experience, right? The conclusion is the lens we look through. The conclusion comes from an original, inevitable experience, right? A wound. We have something happens, maybe I don't know. I went back to the womb in this one when I did it, but I wasn't, included. I wasn't,
In the know.
Yeah, I wasn't, I had 6 kids, 5 kids. She had 5 kids. Yeah, when she had 6 with me, I didn't matter in that situation. So that's the inevitable. I mean, give me a break. I would feel the same way if I were in her shoes. That's the inevitable. I made a conclusion it had something to do with me. That's the wound. So we come back to the trigger and the wound, the trigger and the conclusion are in harmony. They're working together. Does everybody get that? So we've got the trigger, we've got the resistance to the trigger, we have the adaptive behavior, we have the feeling we don't want to feel, we have the conclusion about ourselves, we have the original wounding. That's the map that plays out over and over and over again.
To tie in the trigger is what creates the distortion lens. And this gets back to the quantum physics, the distortion lens through which we view what's happening. That distortion lens for Robin in this case was, I'm not included, I'm not in the know, I'm left out. So as As
As
viewed,
viewed,
so appears. Everybody plays their part. You know, it's like we're handing out a script, right? And so that conclusion, it creates the lens, the distortion lens through which we view our world, our experience.
Right. Everybody with this so far? Yeah. So if we look at our charts, again, since we're looking at channels this month, if we look at our charts and we pick a channel, look at one of your channels, just that you're going to inquire into. And we're looking to see what is our view of that channel. Are there triggers with that channel? Are there adaptive behaviors? We're looking for an access point, because once we can step back and see it and see the original wound and the conclusion, it dissolves. It's like that dragonfly, it dissolves. It no longer has any hold on us. It's the awareness, and this is when you listen to Paul Levy's book or read it. It's the awareness, the consciousness of awareness in the present moment. This is relational presence in the present moment that shifts and creates our reality. So when all we're aware of is our covered up conclusion, because right, we bury the conclusion. We don't want to feel the conclusion. We're protecting ourselves from feeling I'm a shit, I don't feel, I'm not included, I'm not important, I don't matter. I just lost my train of thought. When we bring awareness, the light of awareness to that, it's just not true. We see truth, right? When you see truth, you can't live the lie. These conclusions are lies. They're not truth, they're lies. They were never true. Whatever we concluded about ourselves was never true.
Unavoidable, but never true.
Yeah. So what we thought we would play with here is to have everybody, just for a minute, we can do this all together, and then we can talk about it and maybe go around and have each person say a little bit, or whoever wants to say a little bit about their channel, and maybe Polly work with someone. We'll see how this unfolds. But to look at a channel, choose a channel, and what's your first response when you look at that channel? Anybody want to just popcorn say out what happens when you look at say what your channel is and what happens? Anybody want to say what your experience? Yeah, Barbara.
It's the 1020, and what I've associated with that is it's not safe to be seen as my.
So the 1020 goes from the identity center to the throat. It's the blurter, sometimes the blurter, right? And I'm sorry, 1020 goes from the spleen to the throat. Sorry. 1020, identity center throat. Okay, yeah, I got it.
Which is it?
It goes from the identity center to throat. Yeah, the 57 goes to the spleen. The 1020 goes from the identity center to the throat. So we sometimes say that's the one that just blurts things out. And so can you say a little bit more about how you come to that, with that, what that means to you?
It was an early erroneous assumption, but just not feeling like my voice ever mattered or was invited, and therefore it meant I didn't matter and I wasn't invited, and that strikes to the core of that gate 10.
So this is so beautiful, right? Because we say any channel from the identity center to the throat, if they're criticized in any way, they're speaking from their heart. So Barbara goes to speak from her heart. It's either not received or not acknowledged or not, or criticized, right? And then we say you can turtle when that happens. You can shut down. So Barbara, could you say what your adaptive behavior is to that?
Well, it was that I just shut down my voice, but I'm in the process of claiming it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
The way that that would create a distortion lens through which you see or perceive external reality would be that you should be cautious, that you might have to choose your moment to express, right? But as you come home to yourself, the distortion field of your early conclusion, I'm not heard, I'm not acknowledged here. I have to curtail my expression. I have to be careful. All of that just falls away. And without that, the way your reality shows up is that what it's received, it's not received, but it doesn't, it's like I often say, Satan comes and finds nothing in me, right? You're freed up from what you imposed as you experienced that channel. Yeah. It's such good practice. Yeah.
So what you say is all judgment is self-judgment.
Right.
So they do what they do out there, and the conclusion you draw from it is what hurts.
That's right.
Right? It's not actually what they've done or not done. Is this make sense, Barbara, or fit?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So stay with us for a minute, Barbara. So Eloisa says it's like the awareness unties, it's a question, is it like the awareness unties the emotion from the situation? The situation stays the same, but the emotion is not there. It's way bigger than that.
Yeah, literally, our reality changes because of who we are. If in the double slit experiment, we can identify as a scientist who's measuring the light wave or observing the light wave, and it turns into a photon. That's a transformational process. We seeing through the lens of our woundedness, there is a reality to what we see that looks like and is experienced as if it's written in stone. It's like they're never going to change. They're never going to listen when I speak, right? You know that for sure. But the minute that you are clear of the wound, which was the conclusion out of your experience, legitimate conclusion, but not true, then how people show up, it's quite amazing. The impact, the influence. It's not just that we see it differently, it will show up differently, right? It's like we'll have a very perhaps a parent or a child or a grandchild or whatever always has been, we've felt like they've limited us, they've had expectations, and all of a sudden we clear the trigger and they're just totally forthcoming, and in our mind we'll say, so great that they changed, right? Thank God he changed.
Yes, reality changes. She says, reality changes. Yes,
Yes.
reality. This is what we're talking about. This is why it's so exciting, especially in the context of these global changes and the disruption.
Right.
We have our hands on changing reality.
Yep.
Pali talks about it as bringing heaven on earth, but it's us. Here is this disruption, and we have a say in this. We can be in the hellhole, like we have the pattern from being in our childhood victims, right? That is one of the options. And there's another option here.
It seems daunting because the collective has been participating in the distortion field, right? And so it would seem probably to most everybody initially, it seems like this is such a little thing. So I get over my trigger. Well, it's not a little thing because we're literally participating in a shift in reality. It shows up in human design. It shows up in the gene keys. It's But the way in which this participation creates a new reality is the place at which we start to, doing our own work, have the experience of a contribution to a new world and heaven on earth.
So in the chart, yeah, Eloise, I see you're going to say something. In the chart, the wounding in our chart is the medicine. So wherever we're resisting, anywhere on that map I just gave you, whenever you see any of that, that's like, oh, I'm resisting. Oh, I'm triggered. Oh, I'm resisting something. Oh, I'm using an adaptive behavior. Oh, I'm avoiding a feeling. Oh, I had a conclusion. Oh, I had this wound. Anywhere along that is the access point to coming into awareness and shifting reality,
Seeing differently.
creating a different view so that the reality shifts from that view. Eloisa says, I want to eat that. So it sinks into my genes. Yeah. Yeah, I know. This is a feast. We're having a feast here. We're having a shifting feast. Yeah, Marston.
I was just typing this in the chat, but talking about bringing heaven to earth and changing reality and our participation in conscious healing and conscious awareness makes me think of a channeler that I was listening to, in the way that he said this, I thought was so poignant, because he said, you don't actually ever change the planet. You change the planet you're on. You change the version of Earth that you're existing in, and you align to another version of Earth, a parallel reality out of all the infinite parallel realities that exist in the quantum field. And so what we're doing by like bringing heaven to earth is really just aligning through conscious awareness, through conscious healing, to a higher vibrational version of earth. And I thought that that was such an interesting way to think of it, and it kind of takes away some of that like heavy responsibility that I know a lot of us in this field feel, of creating all this change on the planet. But it's just, yeah, it's a new way of thinking of it for me. So I'm curious if that brings up anything for you all.
Well, it's really important, Marston. It's like each one of us sees a different reality, right? If all of us right now were looking at a rainbow over the West Maui Mountains or over the Kula here, which we often do when we're out and about, we see these rainbows, but each one of us sees a different rainbow, right? But in that
Totally.
seeing of that rainbow, we are participating in that creation and that experience. Yeah. Yeah. The frequency is the key. And the frequency of not being against ourselves, which is what the early wounding installed, the frequency of not being against ourselves gives us this kind of ability to influence and to raise the frequency. Because when we are against ourselves, we are limited in terms of our salutary participation in what can show up as reality, right? We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. All of this has been poetically expressed for centuries, actually. William Blake with "We must cleanse the doors of perception." In the Bible, we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face.
I love that.
I mean, one thing, Marston, I want to say, like a yes and we are the center of our universes. We are the universe, right? Any change that we are is the change of the all in one way. And also, I just want to bring in collective, because one of the things Richard Rudd talked about, I hadn't really gotten this clearly before, but with Pluto transformation in that collective gate, it's like we're doing this collectively at a neuro spider web way. Like it's like we're all connected on this internet world through the ether.
Mhm.
So it's like, the butterfly, in Japan, and feeling it.
Yeah.
So we're interconnected. There's no separation. It really is no separation.
Mm-mm.
It's the 100th monkey.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I think about too with just like the with in regard to the frequency and to collectively, raising the collective consciousness, the collective frequency. One of the things I love thinking about is how our consciousness is only able to perceive our reality from the level that we're operating at. And I think about a specific example. I mean, you mentioned the rainbow, Pali, and I think about how in old literature, they used to describe the ocean as being wine, the color of wine, wine red, because they didn't have the color blue in their vocabulary yet. And so I keep thinking about parallels like that and how that's happening on a collective level.
So Marston, do you have a channel? I mean, Marston's interesting, everybody, because she's our 4-1, right? She's that juxtaposition cross where she just has her own path. So we love having that facet in our light field here. I'm just curious if there's a channel that
Yeah. I had it pulled up here. There's a few I was looking at, but the one that really stands out to me, at least at this juncture in time in my life, is the 5720 channel. And I have that entire circuitry, but the 5720 really stands out to me because I'm in this phase right now of really, really being asked to trust my intuition and to be able to speak in the correct timing and to share insights in the right timing. And that, I know it's a different channel or different gate, but I have the 43 as well. So I have that kind of breakthroughs, insight, freak genius type energy. And I that's kind of coming up a lot with this as it relates to the 5720 in terms of speaking from intuition and letting that guide me. That's been coming up a lot.
57 is in the spleen, it goes to the throat. That was the one. I
Right.
was thinking of you
Yeah,
when
you were. Yeah. Yes.
up to the throat, and it's speaking in the 20 is in the now, it's presence, present time, and then the spleen is that intuition.
Mhm.
So it's learning how to speak in the moment.
And
Yeah.
20 is my south node too. Conscious and unconscious. So.
Self node, conscious and unconscious, which is where she is in her life right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So is there an adaptive behavior or a trigger that comes up when you think of that channel?
Yeah. I mean, and it's interesting to think about identifying what that would be and naming it. I think there's a lot of fear. I mean, obviously just coming off the spleen, there's so much fear in me that comes up with, I think about like ancestral lineage, and the witch wound comes to me with talking about intuitive, just the multidimensional nature of reality and intuitiveness across the board, speaking about that openly, and knowing that there are people who are not ready to hear this information or who will reject this, feeling like my back is against the wall, feeling like I'm like being chased and having to run away. That's definitely a trigger. I mean, I've had nightmares ever since I was a child. I still do, where I'm being chased by like men in black, and I always have to like find a room to hide in my dreams. And that's what comes up with this channel for me of like people won't listen to me, people will think I'm crazy, or similarly getting it wrong, saying the wrong thing, mistaking my intuition for intrusive thought, things like that.
How would you work with Marston with that?
Yeah, the trigger, whether it's in dream time or what we call waking time, which there probably is not as much difference as we attribute to that, uh, but the feeling of being pursued and that whole, like you talk about the witch wound, uh, those of us, especially women who have had past lives
Yeah.
of being at I call the bleeding edge, you know,
Yes.
and having been we have that archetypal memory of that, and so it's like the seeing the 30,000 foot view is, and I think you have that, Marston, as far as I can tell from this interaction. But it's like the identification starts to be less as the person, right? More as the purveyor of this wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that the identification shifts. Identified with this archetypal wound and your own version of it in this lifetime, the fear will continue to percolate, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it's like again, anything that we can see, we're not it. And so that's one of the gifts of the 6 steps, is that it brings it into our awareness from a different perspective, and we see it. So you might, do you use the 6 steps yourself?
No, I should, and I would like to,
Well,
but I have.
yeah, well, it's a tool, and it's really, I think that especially with your sensitivity and your perspective, I think you could really use it. We can run it now if you want to, but I think you can easily use the 6 steps. What it does is it gives you the distinction between who I am and what I have. And as long as it's something I have, I can put the light, the alchemical light of awareness on that pattern, that past life identity, the witch wound. And now I am identified as awareness shining on that scenario, that version, that movie, so to speak. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love that. What I have versus who I am.
That's
I love
that's
that.
at the heart of the 6 steps, that distinction.
So,
Thank you.
so if we look at this, I mean, I loved what you said, Polly, like, oh, you think you're saying something. You think you have something you think it's the person who's identified with what they're saying and how they're being received.
That's right.
Right. So if you, and then there's a conclusion in there that somewhere, I would guess something like, I know for
It's
me,
dangerous.
it came out for me the other day. I'm dangerous. What I say is I'm dangerous
And I'm in danger.
and I'm in danger.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So to see that conclusion, that locks you into being a person,
That's right.
right? And then
Yeah.
you can avoid, you want to look out there and see, when do I talk? What can I say? It becomes a very extremely focused world.
And you become strategic.
Paralyzing. Yeah.
And the frequency of strategy is underpinned by fear.
They're hilarious. There was one starring
No, we're hearing something.
Moira Rose and the Green Goblin.
Hang on, let me just see.
It's Marston's background
Okay.
noise.
I just muted myself. I'm in a coffee shop, so it's probably the music. Sorry.
That's okay.
Keeping the vibes high.
It sounds like you have something to work with here and play with.
Definitely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your insight.
Yeah. This will change your world.
Yep.
Right? If you're not
Literally.
living in fear, if your view isn't, I have to be careful what I say, who I say it to. If that's not who you're identified as, then there's freedom.
Yeah, it's like it's a seemingly subtle shift in perception, but massively profound.
Totally. Exactly.
Exactly.
That's
Thank you.
Thank you, Marston.
good work.
Heidi, you have your hand up.
Yeah, this sort of ties with the transit being 8:30 and something that Marston said um, from the medium, which is also what Polly's been saying all along. So I notice in this transit, I have the 41, so it makes a whole channel with the 30. But I notice this intense burning desires coming up. Like I want I want to be in Maui and I'm not accepting that I can't. And I want to go to this retreat in Mexico over the spring equinox. And I want to go to this other retreat in September in California. And it's just burning. And it gets projected onto Jean Vivi for holding the purse strings. And it's burning. And I had this when you're talking, Robin, about the polarity early on about the wanting something and wanting to avoid something and all of that. I had this thought, I'm just kind of like trying to understand this, that this burning desire, and I am big with wants, this burning desire is I am thinking that I need something different about myself. That if I have this, if I go to these places, I'll have something and then I'll be what I want. And it kind of clicked when Marston talked about recited what that medium said, which of course is what you've been saying. It's like, oh, I have to find that inside me and shift in me. And maybe I go or maybe I don't, but it doesn't matter. I mean, maybe it happens because it happens, but it's the shifting that desire is the key. It's so uncomfortable having a desire and feeling like there's barriers to it. So maddening, right? It's infuriating. And it doesn't have to do anything with anything outside of me. It, is this like, am I on the right track here? Because it
Yeah,
feels
that's the
kind of
shift.
huge.
Right. Yeah, but that's the shift. It's the reclaiming of our attention particles from out there. And the question well, for oneself as desire arises is if I had that, what would I be experiencing? So that we start to bring it home, that we come home to ourselves. And it doesn't, and from that place, now we are not seeing through the lens of deprivation, right? Or of lack or of not getting what we want. You bring it home to yourself, and now the lens is cleared, and whatever shows up then. But at the heart of the matter, the core, you are already experiencing what you had projected you would get if you had something from out there, from that out there projection, which is a projection of I can't have it.
Right. So when I watched that YouTube video and Richard Rudd's talking about this new level of being a human walking on the earth, that ignited my desire even more. I wanted that now and was furious at all of the strategies and things that are in the way of me having that now. And I that's how I've lived my life. Was if I do these things, if I go to enough therapy, if I do enough workshops, if I do enough, if anything, if I get it right, then I'll have that. And
That is the condition of the collective in this reality, is that we are not what we should be, or we don't have what we should have, and then that keeps us externally locked in, and it's a like a closed circuit of both fear and desire for, but it's in my mind, my metaphor is reclaiming all of your attention from out there, coming home to yourself and recognizing that it's already who I am. Uh, and that to the ego hungry ghost mind is not always that. When I describe this, I often know, I can sense when people are like, no, Polly, that's not good enough. I want it right now and I want it out there. Right? So the work that we're doing is the reclamation of our true power in the experience of creating realities. We've chosen a particular design in this incarnation to express through, right? And as we get in touch with um, the fullness and the ease of that expression, but that only comes as we're no longer caught in fear and the idea that there's something out there that if I get it, then I will have my natural, authentic expression. We have our natural, authentic expression as we clear the lens of perception, and we clear that through these triggers, through this. This is the best approach I've ever found anyway. Thank you, Heidi. You good.
Yeah, so just welcome all of that. Just welcome all of that, Hyde. Just welcome all of that. Thanks, Hyde. All right. Jean-Vivi, did you get my text? My message? What I thought we could do is just go into breakout rooms for a minute here and just share share our the channel that we would choose, what the trigger is, maybe just take just a stab at, well, what's the conclusion here? What am I believing here about myself? Is it true? See if we can see that we've identified with it, and what would it be like to just in this moment step back and see the unreality of it or the inevitableness of it, have compassion for it. Everyone good with that? Guys be okay with that? Jean-Vivi, did you get that?
I got that. I'm just not co-host, so I don't.
Oh, okay. I can do it. I'll do it. Just give me a
Yeah.
second. All right. Sorry, you guys. I thought that was happening. So while I'm doing this, anybody have any thoughts or questions? Okay. 1 second. All right. 1 more second. 6. Um, all right, you guys. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Here we go. All right. 5 minutes each, like 10 minutes total. One person take a turn, just looking at a channel, talking about your experience of it, where it shows up in your life, how maybe there's a trigger with it. What what your adaptive behavior might be, what you're maybe not wanting to feel with that, what your conclusion is. Everybody got that? It's just high play. There's no right or wrong here. I'll set the timer and let you know when 5 minutes is up, when it's time to change. So I'm going to go ahead and open all rooms. And Jean-Vivi, you can stay here. Jean-Vivi went. All right. All right, let me set the timer. I will pause the recording here. Can we hear from some of you what your experience was? I had quite an insight myself. Maybe someone we haven't heard from yet. Marco, Hilda, uh, Roxanne, Karina, Deborah. Can you? Yeah, Marco.
I'll just start talking. That's the
Oh,
way I do things.
good.
I had such an insight when Heidi expressed herself. Heidi, thanks again. I have the same gate, and I realized desire. I don't have desire. And I realized I just keep saying no. Every time I feel desire, no, no, not allowed. No, no place for this. No, no, no. So my trigger is basically just saying no to myself. But I do it so much also in other channels. I was talking about channel 1/8 inspiration, which is extremely creative, outgoing, be the role model. And I did the same thing. Nobody will see me because the moment I will express myself, they will tell me I'm not allowed here. I lived in a very small town somewhere. No, we don't do that here. Just shut up and behave. So that was big. I found it a couple of times during my review over the channels, but this one, it came up again. So again, thanks, Heidi. Beauty.
Thank you, Marco. Who else? Yeah, Deborah.
So earlier on when you asked us to focus on a channel, and so the one that I immediately went to, because I know it feels to me at this stage, at least, that this is where much of my wounding is focused. 2750. So the thought that came to mind was, I'm doing and doing and doing, and it's not enough. It's never enough. And yeah, so was able to talk about that, and I feel like it goes back very deep, very far to when I was an infant, really. And my mother went back to work. She was a professional and she wanted to. I know. I've done some work with this, and I know that she didn't want to leave me, but she wanted to go back to work. But I felt, because we had had a deep bond, there had been bonding. She was very present for me as a small infant, but then she was gone. And why? Why was she gone? And even when she came back, she was going to go away. I mean, she kept, anyway, that was the feeling. I can see myself. I can just like this expression of just like, why did she leave me? It's, I can't be good enough. I can't, she doesn't love me enough to stay. So that's,
So powerful.
yeah.
And as you see that, Deborah, do you, like we're talking about reality shifting, do you see a shift in how you are looking, the view? Does the view change?
Oh boy. Yes and no, because I feel like I'm, the onion, right, of our lives. I feel like what I'm going through now is a kind of a return to that with my husband's death and my retirement and other people in my family dying. It's like, and it was, it's not like why, I don't, they're there. I feel them. I know they're there. But it's still, there's a part of me, that wounded part, that's still not fully healed. It's just like I'm alone again.
So this is incredible opportunity, right? This like gold waiting for you.
I know that. And it's really hard to be in the middle of it too. So.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to and I love this about you, Polly, we never underestimate the pain of the trigger, of the conclusion. It is heartbreaking.
Totally.
It is devastating. That is why we go to such lengths to ensure we don't feel it. So what you're doing now is asking yourself to feel it,
Yeah.
to come back and not identify with it, but see it and allow it. And this is not psychological. We're not talking psychological here. I want to keep going to that quantum physics place. We're talking about seeing the light of awareness, seeing truth.
There is sometimes the opportunity to, as awareness, to hold the wounded child, just in a kind of inner, it's not the healing. The healing is in seeing that what the conclusion was never true. That's the light of awareness shining on the conclusion. But there is a space in the 6 steps in which sitting with that conclusion on behalf of that wounded, in your case, infant, right? And saying, I'm the one you've been waiting for, and I am now. And we've got this. It's a kind of place to acknowledge awareness as an active participant in the process of dispelling the wound. And the dispelling of the wound is the seeing that it was unavoidable, so there's no blame or guilt, but it was never true. So that's the bright, shining light of awareness on that conclusion.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
I'm just looking at the time, and I'm also looking at my low battery. I pulled up my phone just in case I lose you. So let's just take a moment to close our eyes, put our hands on our hearts, and just appreciate, picture your chart and appreciate all the places that are trigger places in our chart, that are the medicine, the doorway forward in our chart. Just the treasure hunt. Really, it's a treasure. Our charts are a treasure hunt for us. And that we can do this. We've got this. We can do this. This is what we're here to do, to come home and to use what's in what we've created. Remember, all these, we've created this world to use it for us rather than against us. And let's just go around. I'll just call on you. I think that'll be quickest. I'll call on you, just a word or a sentence, a takeaway, or what you want to anchor, what you're feeling. Jean Vivi?
One of my, okay, if I fail, it means I'm bad, and it was never true. It's not true.
Thank you. Cindy?
Connection and community.
Thank you. Heidi?
Holding all of it with wider arms.
Thank you, Heidi. Deborah?
Healing.
Healing. Marston?
What I keep hearing is keep going and keep opening.
Yeah. Thank you, Marston. Yarrow?
I feel very touched.
Thank you. Karina?
The power of the light of awareness.
Yeah, thank you. Roxanne?
I'm feeling tender.
Barbara?
Centered and open.
Thank you. Hilda?
Truth and freedom.
Peace and freedom. Thank you, Hilda. Marco?
Enjoy the yes.
Thank you, Marco. Casey.
I am feeling the intense desire and just connection to the sentence, I am the awake awareness in which all reality arises.
Yeah. Thank you, Casey. Eloisa. Oh, we didn't hear that.
Stay curious, stay open.
Thank you. For me, I just feel huge open, like my heart, everybody's inside my heart, including me and my whole history, my whole chart, everything is inside my heart. Pali, any last word from you?
Happy.
Happy. Okay, my dears, thank you so much. Love being on this journey with you. We'll meet next Saturday for the intensive. Look forward to seeing you then, so you'll get another taste of Pali at that point. All right. Love you guys. Take
Aloha.
care. Aloha.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.